Okay, here we are, episode 1. In this episode, I talked with my good friend Eric Lundgren. Eric is a guitarist, composer, and arranger from Wisconsin who currently lives with his wife and dog in Stratford, Ontario. In this episode, I talked to Eric about working as a cruise ship musician, staying motivated amid a global pandemic, Canadian versus US vernacular, and a bit of music composition talk in there too. All right, let's go!
Okay, cool.
You rolling?
Yes, I am
Sweet.
rolling, and I am gonna do my best to not make squeaky noises.
I just had an idea of how I can easily sync up the thing. I'll say 1, you say 2, I'll say 3, you say 4, and then I can like scissor them together. That might be stupid, but I'm gonna try it. Okay, ready?
Okay, you gonna give me a tempo?
No, whatever. Just say it back and forth.
Okay.
Okay, 1,
2,
3,
4.
Cool. All right, that should work. All right. So now here we are. We're talking to each other.
Yeah, man.
Whatever this will be, whatever this podcast will become.
Okay. I'm nervous.
Today I am talking
Not gonna
with
lie.
my good friend. Are you nervous? Don't be nervous. Yeah, don't be. I think that'll subside after we get into talking too. But
Probably.
yeah. Today I'm talking to my good friend Eric Lundgren, who I met how many years ago? How long have we known each other?
2011.
2011. So that's 10 years.
10 years, man. 10 years as of April.
Which is interesting, yeah, because my wife and I have been together for 10 years. And your wife and you have been together for 10 years because we both met our wives at the same time.
Same time.
And the exact same time. While working on a cruise ship. Yeah, man. I have in my notes keep cruise ship talk to a minimum.
I was just gonna chastise you for even bringing it up. You told me I wasn't allowed to talk about that.
Well, I just didn't want it to turn into a talking about old cruise ship stories.
It's alienating to everyone who's never been there.
It's true.
So it's kind of a very specific subject.
But I was gonna say, maybe we touch on it just to give a preamble, because that is we met each other in that environment in our sort of formative years of our early 20s, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember because you came on, I think it was a couple months after. That was my second contract. It was your first contract.
Yep.
But yeah, and then I just remember I knew exactly the feeling I looked at your face of just like looking around like, what is this place and what am I doing here?
Newborn baby deer in headlights, totally lost. Had not done a ton of traveling yet, just in general. Yeah. Much less anything at all. Like,
well, and we're both basically from the woods too. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas you embrace your inner woodsman, I am an indoor kid. But yeah, and we kind of, it's weird, there's lots of like parallels because we both met our wives at the same time, and then we swapped places. So I'm from Canada and you're from the US, and you moved to Canada and I moved to the US.
Yep.
I guess that's where that ends. That's it. But I remember meeting you, and it's just like I remember trying to like, you know, help you out and stuff, and then realizing like I don't know what I'm doing either.
Coming from the perspective of someone who was brand new, you guys were all like spirit guides at that point. Because
I had just been brand new. I think that was my value.
Yeah, because you knew. You were more in touch with the feeling of being lost and confused and overly stimulated by everything. Okay, yeah. One story.
Go.
I was late for the ship coming back on like my first home port day.
Okay.
And I didn't realize the gravity of that mistake. It's a big mistake.
Oh, yeah.
Like the kind that you lose privileges temporarily because, you know, You get
it's like imagine like a whole town has to wait for you.
Yeah.
That's essentially a whole village of.
And I get back to the boat, and security just like lays into me. I was like, I didn't know there's a sign that says boat sets sail at this time. So I was just back before that.
Yeah.
There's a specific crew back on board time. Anyway, the moral of the story is you gotta. I shouldn't even say the moral of the story. The main thing is there are signs everywhere.
Yeah.
There's 100 signs in any given, like you stand in 1 square foot of space and there's 100 signs telling you all different stuff. Mm-hmm. You can't take that all in as a newbie. So
no, you're not even supposed to break your stride. You got to take it all in while moving by them. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. So it's just, that's the funniest, first home port day is to get back to the ship totally clueless at just how big of a mistake that you made. And I ended up in the staff captain's office, first week being there.
Yep.
And it was just very embarrassing. But that was when everyone took me under their wing. Said, protect Eric. He's clearly lost.
He's gonna wander off if we don't watch him. His nickname for our listeners here is, it used to be Mowgli, because he would just sort of like go off and climb trees and shit. We'd be at like a resort or something having a drink, and you'd just be like, look at that turtle.
One of my favorite things was I'm from the Midwest, so
yeah,
citrus trees that you can pick citrus fruit straight from were very novel for me.
I should have followed you out because I've still never seen one of those. And for context, just because like I don't want to assume, we just start talking and it's like if someone's listening, it's like, who are these people? We're both musicians.
Yes.
I play saxophone. You play guitar. We joined the cruise ship as show band musicians. Our wives are both dancers. But I was going to talk about the gig a little bit because it's like and I'd like to know your thoughts on this because it has changed since we started. So back in 2010, and even before that, it's like just the sort of decline in job opportunities. Mm-hmm. Like there was in the company that we worked for, there was 26 ships, and almost all of them at one point had a 10-piece band, which was like a rhythm section and 6 horns. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it was all of them, just sort of in general, but by the time I got there, it was sort of like there was like a handful of 10-piece ships left, and then by the time I left around 2016, I don't think there was any. I don't know that there was
any.
Yeah, because I started on Barry, mm-hmm. and then by the end of it, I was doing just alto and tenor, because like the alto tenor ones could go to like a 5-piece ship where I was the only horn. Yep. And I think I was actually on the last Barry contract. Was
it on the contract that we met? Because
it was on the same ship that we met on. It wasn't that same contract. But
got it.
I did a couple more 10-piece after that because I love being in a horn section. It's more fun, and there's a lot less like playing cowbell with the rhythm section.
I remember the second time we got to work together.
Yeah,
that's exactly what you were doing.
Yes, that's right.
We were playing all sorts of pop tunes in a smaller band format, mm-hmm. rhythm section, 1 singer, and a horn player.
Yeah,
and no arrangements for you.
Yeah,
so
just do your thing.
We were all listening and lifting stuff, and that was just kind of an expectation from the perspective of a rhythm player. That's sort of the expectation a lot, especially guitarists. Guitarists as a whole are notoriously bad readers. I consider myself to be pretty good. I would never say great, but I'm a solid reader, especially for a guitarist.
Well, and do you think that gig probably helped that too, right? Because you had to when you have to do something for your job, it's like you're gonna get good at it, or you're not gonna have that job anymore. So.
Early on in my studying of music, I had a teacher tell me that was the secret to getting work, is become a good reader.
Yeah.
Maybe that advice is, good advice. I don't know how accurate it is, but it did make me study a lot harder. Yeah, specifically for reading.
I think it's like, where I am right now, and we'll get to where I am right now, but we're still in past mode at this point. But, reading versus like just learning stuff by ear, it's like it really does depend on what kind of sphere you want to exist in as a musician. It's like, do you want to be like the guy that maybe a house band type of thing where you have a certain repertoire, maybe you guys know 200-300 tunes and you don't really need like that's not a scenario where you're ever really gonna need to read a chart, because you're just gonna know the stuff and learn it for next weekend or whatever, that kind of thing. And there's a lot of that in the professional world, like, and again, it depends on what you mean by professional, like paying, it's, I think for a thing like, it was interesting to the not decline, but like seeing the cruise ship go from lots of musicians and like a bigger production show where it's like Broadway style, Vegas style shows, where everyone's reading a set, to a click. This is the show, to more of a lounge, like a casino lounge kind of band. It directly correlates with reading to not reading, kind of. You know what I mean? And that's not to say, like, we still used, because I went to pretty much exclusively 5-piece because I had to. I never actually did 7-piece. I always wanted to do that. But I went from 10-piece band to a 5-piece band where I was the only horn, and it was like, we still used a lot of the same charts, but I had to, you can't do the same thing. Like, me playing the lead alto part for this song is going to sound not the same without the rest of the horn section. So it's like,
you're playing some boring inner voice line that doesn't make any sense without the other parts. But it's just interesting, and like you saw it too from like, I never did any of the shoreside stuff, and you saw sort of like more of the, and we'll save that for another episode, but they went in a direction that I hope that it comes back, because everything, the way the world is now, in these uncertain times. Oh no, there's another word. It's not uncertain. It's unprecedented.
Unprecedented. Yeah.
That's the one that everyone uses. It's the most irritating buzzword. Oh wait, sorry. What are the rules on swearing?
Oh no, you can swear. It's fine.
Okay,
it's not for kids.
I try and I don't go
be
crazy.
Classy about it.
Yeah. Man, seriously, every time I use any form of quote unquote curse word, my dad's voice runs through my head, and he says, people who chronically swear, it's probably because they don't have other words that could perhaps fit the situation more appropriately.
Yep. I think I need to expand my vocabulary a little bit. What was I going to say? No, anyway, I was just going to say, like, it's similar kind of like thing out here in Vegas where I go back and forth. I think this is kind of like, we're getting to now the thesis of this particular episode, for me anyway, which is the sort of, there's good and bad things about being a musician. Obviously, that's not brand new information, but
that's the thesis? Wow.
But yeah, the world is hard sometimes. The most general. But like, man. It's interesting because it's like, I hope there's a lot of people that I have some hope, but my pessimism for being a musician in general at all is definitely outweighing my hope at this point. Just at this point. Doesn't mean I'm, we're all transient, so.
Yeah.
But it's like, I had, like, the pandemic happened, and so, for context, I live in Las Vegas. I teach some students at a university, but my main job is working for the school district at a middle school. And it pays the bills, and it allows me time to go and do the other side stuff. But I went from playing 2 or 3 shows, like subbing for somebody on this particular show, a week.
Yeah.
So it's like I was doing fairly well, and things were expanding well. And then
you were still, like, anytime you transition to a new city, it takes time. like to develop those relationships and someone wants some vacation time, so you cover for them, and I don't know. That's like planting a seed in the ground, and you got to wait for a few seasons to pass for those roots to grow.
And that's exactly what it was, because like I didn't get that sub gig from anyone hearing what I sounded like as a musician. I got it from, oh yeah, I can vouch for him. Cool. I'll put him on the list, right? And obviously it's like you have to have a certain level to just be even considered and be recommended by somebody. But yeah, so and then, we had, so things were going well, and then March 2020 happened, and it's like, okay. And then I think it was in the summer, another friend of ours out here, a trumpet player who also did cruise ships, he was putting together a show.
I bet I know who it is.
I think you do. But he was putting together a show, a couple tribute things, and he was just getting people together to rehearse and to record some like promo stuff. And that was my first time playing with anyone for months at that point, like 3-4 months. And I remember getting there. It was the second rehearsal. There was 2 horn players that couldn't make it. Mm-hmm. And they had to sub out. The subs that they brought in were the people that I sub for on the show that closed down months earlier. So okay. I'm looking at this going like, okay, wow. So this person is subbing for, and like they're just doing, that's the culture right here, is like you sub on everything so that it's actually, it's everybody looking out for each other. So it's like this person will go sub on this so that they know the show, so that if certain people, everybody's flexible and like can kind of all play the same shows, and it helps everybody pass work around, and it was very nice to see that. I looked at them subbing for this rehearsal, not even a gig. It was not paid. It was just a rehearsal for a potential gig, and this is like in the depths of the pandemic. Like it's like everything's like super super shut down. There wasn't a vaccine yet. Blah blah blah. But it was really disheartening. Like that was kind of a turning point, and it's not like I wasn't kind of listing that direction in general with my career, but it's like I saw that and it was kind of like a nail in the coffin of like, wow, it's if these guys who are the best players in Las Vegas are not able to find. And that doesn't mean that just because they were at that rehearsal that they weren't able to find work, but it's like,
oh, don't you
weren't
worry.
Busy.
I totally understand where you're going with this.
Exactly. They weren't busy, right? So it's like if they can't stay busy, then it's just like, as far as being a musician, I'm just kind of like, it's just so burnt out because you spend so much time. Like I've been at this for 25 years, if you count like middle school, but
it's a lot of things. It's fucking scary. It's disheartening. It's especially when you felt like you were getting somewhere.
It's definitely like a rug being pulled out.
I don't think I have bounced back. Granted, no one's bounced back 100%. Not even major label acts. Like a lot of people who had tours set up, they're already starting to get canceled. So obviously no one has bounced back. But there was a point where I was just kind of considering never going back to performing.
Yeah, man.
Not to hijack your story.
No. I was done. You go. Yeah.
My wife and I are both involved in entertainment. Mm-hmm. So when entertainment becomes like an outlawed job, basically.
Yeah.
Like we just bought a house. It's been really, really tough trying to like figure out how to. Everyone says the first year is the toughest. The first year is really fucking tough when both of you lose your jobs at the same time.
Pile it all on, right?
There's kind of a lot of things to share. One thing we realized, Christ, no one would have a portfolio, like a financial portfolio where all the things are in one area, and like our household income was not very diversified. We were both affected by the same thing to the same magnitude. We both lost the right to work. I'm in southern Ontario. Ontario has been super strict with regards to quarantines and like numbers of people getting together in groups.
Heard that, yeah.
One of the last to open up, everywhere, not just in Canada, but everywhere. I'm not going to go into anything political or anything about, whether that's the right move. It's just the reality that I have to live in. Those are the rules that I have to abide by.
Yeah, and it's not, I don't think that it's just like, it's no matter what their intention is and all, like the all this stuff, it still sucks. Like, it's still someone taking it, like, you're a coal miner and global warming. Yeah, I get it, but I've been mining coal for 70 years. What else am I going to do? Right? It still sucks. So, yeah.
So, one of the biggest discussions with us throughout the last year, or however many months, 16 months, 18 months, has been, maybe trying to diversify how we get our money.
Yeah.
And we both have a love for dogs. And when I first moved here, I was doing a lot of different jobs, different odd jobs, as I was, just meeting people in the country. And one of the things that I was doing for a couple of years is walking dogs for a company called Canino. And if you are in the Toronto area and you need a dog trainer, Canino. Canino.ca, I think. Anyway,
nice.
The owner taught me so much. He's fantastic with dogs. Just want to give him credit. Anyway, he gave me an appreciation and an appreciation for dog walking, for dog coaching. I wouldn't call myself a trainer, though I feel like I could offer quite a bit as far as knowledge about dogs to your average dog owner.
Well, and I've seen like the stuff that you put on Instagram. It's like, it looks like a camp for dogs. It looks like, I'm like, I want to hang out with all these dogs.
That's one of the things that we did. We pivoted and started our own dog walking business. It's called the Gilded Leash. If
Gilded
you like
Leash.
watching, the Gilded Leash.
Maybe I'll add like a sound effect, like plug, plug.
But if you're ever looking for a daily dose of like fun dog stuff, we do off-leash dog adventures in our hometown, Stratford, Ontario.
Off-leash dog adventures. I like that.
Yeah. What is our tagline? Oh man, Amanda's gonna kill me if I don't get it right.
While you think about it, it's on Instagram. It's the Gilded Leash, all one word.
Engaged and educational dog walking. That's our tagline.
Engaged and educational dog walking. It really is cool because like it's a bunch of videos. Like, first of all, this is a good-looking couple right here. I mean, I know the podcast listeners can't see, but I've known these two for a long time, and I got to tell you, beautiful, beautiful people. And just to, come on, thanks, man, look at that. You look like, it looks like, I don't know. It could be a model for something. You look a little threatening there with the with the bandana and the beard, but no, but it's like, it's a bunch of videos of dogs just having the best time ever, running through the woods. And like, are you near like a park? Like where do these?
So we have
break into people's backyards.
No. We have the good fortune of having access to some private land that the landowner has generously offered for us to use.
Nice. That's awesome.
So that was something that kind of was born out of the shutdown on entertainment.
Yeah.
One other interesting thing, we had been looking for a house for a very long time, and Southern Ontario is one of the most competitive housing markets. What am I talking about? I don't work in the housing, real estate, anything. I just know what people say. And Canada, for some reason, has decided that all of the people need to live in the same southern sliver of this nation. I don't quite know why.
I feel like weather has dictated that to a certain extent.
Yeah, that's true. I've never experienced the weather.
Not everyone likes tundra, Eric.
All right. Time to admit, I am a diehard fan of winter.
Yeah.
I fucking love winter so much.
That's it. And I mean, like, I grew up shoveling snow. Well, so did you. Wisconsin gets a fair amount. But when you're a kid, like, someone else is shoveling the deck. And then you get drip fed the misery of of winter. So it's like, now you gotta shovel the pathway, and then it's the driveway, and then it's warm up the car, and then it's scrape the car.
And then it's Mr. and Mrs. Gerard's driveway across the street.
And then it's go do a paper route. This is showing my age. Go do a paper route in the dead of winter with, I think there's a video of when I was probably 14, 15, wading through snow. Paper route bag, just dragging along. Awful. So I moved somewhere very hot as soon as I could.
The desert, man.
I went to the other extreme. But yeah.
So housing market here, very, very competitive. We had been looking for a really long time and continuously outbid, but we had been saving. And then all of a sudden this shutdown happens, and we're worried because Ontario looks at your previous 2 years' tax returns. And we were just so worried about this year tanking our tax return, like kind of ruining what our income looks like.
Yeah,
and then we're going to struggle again for another 3 years to get rid of that cycle. But we put an offer on our house on the day Ontario went into lockdown.
Oh, my God.
We debated it. Everyone was worried and concerned about the uncertainty. Amanda was very confident that we could pull it off. And there was only one other offer that had never happened to us. We had always been competing with other people. And we got this house. So for that, I'm really grateful. And I do think that is entirely because of this situation. So we had that thing that that's an event that I'm very grateful for, and I do try and remember that when I get pissed off that I was doing this really great arranging gig for an entertainment company in Toronto, a literal dream job. I wrote 157 arrangements.
Wow.
Over the course of 2020 for a like 3-horn and rhythm section.
Yeah,
it was a lot of work, but I loved it. I loved doing that, and that's gone. I don't have that job anymore.
Yeah. Hi, Michael Spicer here. I know it's a little bit depressing right now with this subject matter, but hang in there and I promise it does get more uplifting. Also, here's an ad. Hi there, I'm the dog man of Stratford, Ontario, and I have so many dogs. I love my dogs, but sometimes I need a break. That's why I take my dogs to the Gilded Leash. They offer off-leash pack walks through a beautiful plot of land, perfect for my high-energy dog babies. And if you have a less socialized pup like Roger here, they can start with solo walks on leash and graduate to interacting with the Gilded Leash's pack mascot, Einarr. Find and contact Eric and Amanda on Instagram at The Gilded Leash to see examples of engaged and educational dog walking. All right, come on, Roger, you little psycho. You bite me sometimes. So
that was actually something I was waiting to say. Is you moved to a country that speaks the same
nobody
language,
knows I'm from anywhere else, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's so funny. Like I was just gonna say, there's a lot of differences between the two countries, and it's one of my favorite things to point them out.
Yeah.
But
what's your favorite? What's one that comes to mind?
Oh man, I am not prepared for this question. No. The things I like most are like the almost imperceptible differences that make it really hard to remember where I am. I still don't know if it's CVS, Shoppers.
Yeah.
I actually am always uncertain. I'm not sure. I think it's Shoppers. I'm pretty sure it's Shoppers here.
Shoppers,
but
that's Canadian.
I don't know. Okay. See, I'm getting there. I'm getting better.
But no, it's the exact same store. Like, it's like the layout is the same.
Same store.
It's not even just like it's a type of drug.
It's even red and white.
Yeah.
Like variations of a red and white and kind of a pale blue color scheme. It's the same damn place.
I've only lived in Canada and here because like the in between stuff was just being on a cruise ship and you're just kind of transient. But just like there's parts of downtown Vegas that really remind me of Halifax. Like a lot.
Oh, really?
Like it's like an art district kind of, but just little slivers of like this kind of cool bar, like the way the types of people that are there. It's just little pockets of like the same town are just spread out all over the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
There's a lot of like more UK English influence here. So there's certain words that are different that I really enjoy. Not, I mean, pronunciation aside, it's just a different word. Like, you don't ask to go to the bathroom here. It's a washroom.
Yeah, washroom, yeah.
And that took a specific effort to get that into my vocabulary.
Do you ever talk to anyone about a parking garage?
As opposed to...
Well, they call it a parkade. I grew up with Parkade.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if that's an East Coast, or maybe a lot of things that I thought were Canadian are just like my weird family. But
no,
Parkade,
that makes sense. But Mayor is Southern, and there is, regional differences within the U.S. for sure.
That's the other thing. That's the other parallel between our lives. That's what I was forgetting. Is that you married a Canadian, moved to Canada. I married someone from the U.S., moved to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So we crossed each other's paths, and
And in our first year filing our own separate tax returns, you recommended that I get a particular book, the American in Canada, and you had the Canadian.
It was for dummies.
America.
It's the for dummies. They have good stuff. I like it.
It was a fantastic recommendation. Thank you. There's a better example of the like super subtle differences between the two countries, because they are wildly different, but so similar at the same time.
Yeah.
I putting me on the spot here. I want to see. For a while, I was writing them down, and I want to just quickly grab a book. You can stitch this together.
You can stitch it, yeah. It's fine.
This is a super small transition while Eric gets his book.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like, I go through moments where I will start writing down more stuff, more things, more thoughts, and then I fall off that wagon. So sometimes my dates go from, 2015 to 2017 because, I stopped writing for 15 months.
Yeah.
I thought I wrote down a lot more of these than I did. I haven't. I've had the thought, I should write that down.
Yeah.
I haven't. I only have like 5. Pylons versus cones.
Okay, yeah.
4-ways versus blinkers or hazards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 4-ways. I forgot about 4-ways.
I had never heard anyone refer to them as 4-ways until when one of my first jobs here was working for a moving company, and the guy I worked with, that's where I first heard 4-ways. I've since heard it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I understand that these differences could just be regional.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing is, like, you have to figure out, like, if it's a provincial thing or if, like, is that a Nova Scotia thing? Is that a Kentville, Nova Scotia thing? Is it a Halifax, Nova Scotia thing? But, yeah.
An advanced green as opposed to the green arrow.
What is it, advanced green?
Yeah, like you're waiting to make a left and then you get the green arrow to make your left, a protected left turn because it's your go. Yeah. I hear people call that an advanced green.
I've never heard
that term. I love that term. I was working for a hot sauce company for a long time. When I first moved here. And in the commercial kitchen where we would make the hot sauce, the owner of that kitchen, I think she was from somewhere west. Manitoba, maybe? Anyway, she was having a conversation, and I was freaking clueless because she kept using this word decal. Decal.
Any
guesses?
Decal. Oh, no. Decal, like a decal?
Yeah. Fucking decal.
Yeah.
Man, I was so lost. Decal.
It's decal. It's not decal.
Oh, thank God. I didn't like that one. That's one I heard.
Language evolves, but, like, that's wrong. Decal. Yeah, write down Parkade. Since you're talking about,
I'm doing it.
You're talking about cars right anyway. Now. Parking garage versus Parkade.
Another short transition.
We've already talked about a lot of the stuff that I wanted to, like the sort of just downtrodden feeling of trying to get through this pandemic. Just for instance, and this isn't even necessarily pandemic specific, but so right now I'm working on an 8-bit album that I'm gonna sell on, hopefully sell on the Unity store and like Unreal Engine. I'm not gonna make a whole lot of money from this, but it's more just to say that I did it and I put it on that. But anyway, and I've been learning about 8-bit music and stuff, so I have all these plugins and blah blah blah. But I had my favorite tune that I wrote. I have 7 tunes now, and my absolute favorite one, the file got corrupted, and it was stuff. It was the type of thing where it was very indicative of like where I am in my life, which is like going from playing music for a long time and actually being able to sustain myself playing music, to then slowly, going, okay, I'm going to go get a master's and get a more composition stuff going so that I can move more in that direction. And it was kind of like, at times I feel like I haven't done that fast enough, and and a lot of times it just feels like and ask Meredith, like I don't stop working, and that's not, it sounds like something that you say in a job interview. I care too much. But it's like,
no, man, it's indicative of you working for yourself.
Yes, exactly.
It never goes away.
Well, and what I start to get fatigued with is not necessarily like, oh, this, like, because me sitting down, like this morning, for instance, I was sitting down doing sound design for a competition that I'm going to enter. I was doing it, and I'm like, this is awesome, and I get like I want to do the type of work that I get sucked into, that you get like you can't help but focus on it. Everything else just, you know what I mean? Where I am, I'm like splintering off in all these different directions, but I had this corrupted file, and I was like, I just feel like I'm doing all this work, and I don't know if it's the right kind of work to get me to where I want to be, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I have an overall plan. Like I have this whiteboard here. I have all this crap like prioritized, and like what do I need to do next? What's the next? What's due when? And all that stuff. And it just, that was just, I was so disheartened by that, and like it just kind of sucked all the energy out of me. Like I had all this shit to do, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. I didn't have. It's not that I didn't have the energy, because like I was getting up and I was doing things, and I didn't feel like depressed. But the thought of going and doing any of that work that I love to do, it was like gross to me. I didn't want to do it. It just, and I think that is depression, if I've ever heard of it,
Yeah.
Because it's just a vacuum. It's just like I just felt like I couldn't get ahead. I have since recovered that file. Happy ending, all that shit.
Oh, okay, cool. That's great.
I feel fragile in how I'm going about my work, and how I'm trying to get myself into this sphere or that sphere, and I feel fragmented because I just have these people telling me, if you want to get into game audio, your website should have this, this, and this, and you should be focused on just that and not this. Like you shouldn't have things that appeal to podcasters, and not that anyone's explicitly said that, but they're like, the more focused on one thing that you can be, the better. And it's like, I don't feel like right now that's a great option for me, because I don't know where the most opportunity is. And I think that, because right now I have like an isolation booth. I'm really well set up for remote stuff and editing. I know how to edit, and I know how to do sound design and all this stuff. So it's like, why would I limit myself just to one thing? And I know it's like, maybe there's a debate back and forth about that. But what do you think of that? Have you found, how do you approach that? Do you approach things as more like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to go all in on this one specific thing, or do you kind of try to do it all,
No, I prefer diversified mastery. Mastery begets mastery.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm a master of anything, not at all. But the pursuit of mastery, I think it's similar in any art form. And watching someone who's really good at something is fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think that you can learn and pull things into like your primary art form from any form of mastery. There's a quote from Book of Five Rings that I'm trying to reference. It's something along the lines of, to know the sword, study the brush, or something like that. But I personally like studying a lot of different things. I love feeling like I have a lot to learn. It just helps keep me motivated when I feel like I'm at the bottom and I have a long way to climb.
Yeah.
But I think I need that just to stay on track. It helps, I don't know, it helps keep me, getting up and, maintaining my practice routine or, whatever.
Yeah, man. I think, so going through like sort of study periods, whether that's in school or just like self-study or whatever, versus these sort of plateau periods. So like, for example, me being in my undergrad, getting a performance degree, and then moving to a cruise ship, there was a huge, like a really compact study period at the beginning of the cruise ship thing. There was like the 4-year study period of being in school, which is still kind of like a little safe area, right? As
Very
far
safe.
as musician stuff. But then going to a cruise ship, you're handed a stack of, like, here's 3 shows.
It's horrifying.
Here's 5 shows. And I'll see
Absolutely horrifying.
I'll see you in 2 hours for the first one. It's like, okay.
I was playing like 12 hours a day because after everything was done, I was going backstage and practicing for like 5 hours.
But so that's the type of thing where I had to do it, and that's like that's bedrock. So it's like you're there and you can't go any further down. So it's like you're either going to do this or. And my dad basically said he wasn't. My parents are lovely and they would never leave me out to dry and they would always help me as much as they can. But his way of helping me is saying, you do this or you don't go home or you don't come home. Like don't ask me for money if you don't. You know what I mean? Like just don't fuck this up. Is what he basically said.
I think our parents had similar principles.
Yes.
I think of like trying out for a sport and then, not really liking it. So, hey, you're finishing the season.
Yeah.
Tough shit.
Yeah. Well, no, and it was just like, and I took that to heart, and I didn't need my dad to tell me that. I already had that. But I'm like, it was nice to have him confirm that that's what I should be doing and whatever. But But that that's the necessary thing is like, I was memorizing shows. I was like, if I can't sight read all that well, then I'm gonna really, really know the shit really well, and I did, and it was fine. But after that, maybe like you go to the next ship and you learn that. The next one, you kind of start to start to get a little more comfortable because it's like the same stuff a lot of the time. Welcome aboard show, But then at the end of my career, I guess, at being on a cruise ship, I was sort of like I stagnated for a long time, and that's another part. That's another kind of like you can get like sunk into that routine where it's like it is just routine. It's like forming habits that. If you form a habit of laziness, then you're just gonna continue doing that, And I remember I was trying to get into it. Was Meredith had already left. She had done 11 years. She was out. I had like a couple more contracts. She was looking for apartments in Vegas, and I was on a 5-piece ship with. I felt like I was. I don't want to be here anymore because Meredith, my wife's not here. None of my friends are here. Everybody in the band is new and young, and they think it's awesome when I knew what was awesome or what. And that's how everybody feels,
Yeah.
But it's like, no, this isn't awesome. Like, okay, we're playing for and honestly, it was awesome because I was playing music, and that was my job.
I think that the blanket statement is we're not disparaging anything about it. It's just everybody reaches the end of that time in their life at a different time. And when it's time to go, it's better to go so that you can look back on it with positive memories rather than, you stayed too long and now you're just bitter. And
exactly.
grumpy.
And I've seen those musicians. That's a really great way of putting that. I've seen those musicians. We've all have where they're older, they come back to a ship, or they just have stayed the whole time, and they hate their lives. And I was already becoming that guy after 6 years. It was like 6 years is a long time.
It is because you're away from family. You have
and
less
especially
of a sense
in
of
your
permanence.
20s, man. It's most of my 20s was on a cruise ship. But anyway, like I got to where I was trying to come. I wanted to get a master's degree because I wanted to go in a different direction of than performance, because I knew that if I could learn more about like how to orchestrate things and write and do all this stuff, then I could actually be the one in charge that actually can provide jobs for people. That's my dream, is just to hire my friends, or help my community, right? But
I like that dream. Good dream.
And it's so I got to the point, and there wasn't a fire lit under me, is my point, is that
yes
I wrote out, I gave myself a schedule. I learned, well, actually it's propping up my monitor now, but I have the History of Western Music textbook. It was like that.
Ooh, I got it right up there.
Yeah, it's thick, right? I went through the whole thing.
Really?
And I think I got 3/4 of the way through.
Did you listen to all the examples?
Most of them.
Okay, very cool.
Because I had never had like classical history course in my undergrad, and I knew that there was going to be these placement exams. So this is after I'd gotten into the master's program at UNLV. I was like, okay, well now I guess that is the fire that was lit under me, but I was like, I got to do this, and it was just like I zoned into, this has to happen before I leave, because I'm like, and so I didn't stop from that point until I graduated. I didn't stop. I was like, everything depends on this, and like I need to work really hard. And to go from that to graduate, you're working at a middle school, and to anyone who works in a middle school, you understand what I mean. It's not, kids are great. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing that. I don't think that it's like throwing in the towel if you're gonna go teach, because the whole those who can't do teach thing is not. It's not true.
It's false logic.
It doesn't. That's where you get bad teachers from. Exactly. People who can't do and then just think that you can go teach that thing that you can't do are completely incorrect. It's just that certain people are good at you can be a good teacher and good at the craft also, because you kind of have to be, right? They go hand in hand. How are you going to teach something you don't really know how to do?
I think you can be all of the permutations of that. I mean, there are great teachers who maybe aren't as great like in the field.
Yeah.
There are people great in the field who make terrible teachers.
Yeah.
That's
there are
people
true
who are passionate about teaching. There are people who aren't.
Yeah.
I know from the perspective of someone who loved going to school and learning, like that's something I feel I just have a love for it. And Amanda, she'll be the first to tell you, I don't have a ton of patience when people don't catch on. She's always telling me I need to look at it from not just my perspective, because everybody needs to learn the way they need to learn.
Yeah, true.
Are you in touch with any of your teachers from your past?
I mean, on occasion.
I'm just curious, like, I have like a lasting, lifelong relationship with the guy that I kind of consider to be my first real university teacher.
Right.
I just had a 2.5-hour phone conversation with him.
Nice.
Maybe a week and a half ago.
That's great.
Because we had been trying to connect for a long time, and then a few months would go by, and then we'd try again in a few months. We hadn't talked in like a year and a half, like a solid year and a half. We had not communicated, and it was really, really nice to talk to him. And I know how important he has been for me, so I know that the job of being a teacher is really important. And in the art form that I have chosen to study, and art forms in general, just being an organic organism, like it's our job to pass down stuff to the people that are coming up behind us. So I do feel like I should teach in some capacity, because it just seems like the rite of passage, or
it also is
something.
It is kind of like a biological. It's interesting because we're like wired to like pass our genes on, for instance.
Yeah,
and that's kind of like, I think that's kind of roped into that as like your craft is part of your identity. I
just feel like I've gained so much from teachers in my life that it seems selfish to not further that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hi, I'm sound designer and composer Michael Spicer, and I want to help you with the audio in your podcast.
Do you need theme music or background music in a specific genre? We've got 8-bit. Orchestral.
Or just chill.
Visit michaelspicermusic.com and contact me. All my social media stuff's there too, so you know, whatever you want. Goodbye. Hi, Michael Spicer here. I play Michael Spicer on the hit podcast Spice to Meet You. I'm also the executive producer, so I can do things like advertise myself on my own podcast. But I can also make an ad for you. Go to michaelspicermusic.com and contact me regarding your audio project. Bye. You did a project with, you sent me a Spotify link for somebody.
Oh yeah, no, that's his name is Robert Ball. He's a musician here in Stratford with me. Yeah, Robert Ball Music. Check it out. The song is called "I Need a Man."
Okay.
There is, you'd have to speak to him more about like the background of the song, where it comes from for him, because he is the songwriter. But he came to me with lyrics and a melody and a song form, but he kind of he gave me carte blanche to do whatever the hell I wanted to it. He had his things that he said like he was looking for in it, but it was the first time that I really collaborated with anyone in a writing capacity.
Yeah.
And it was really, really fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So maybe we can throw a link.
I'm gonna make sure. Click. I have a thing on this. It's so I'll put podcast notes.
Yep. And I'm playing guitar, bass.
And you wrote the whole thing, right?
All the keyboards on that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great, man. I like the first time I ever collaborated with a vocalist was out here. It was someone from the show actually that got shut down. Mm-hmm. The way that show worked is they would have like little mini acts come out in between like the main parts of the show. Mm-hmm. And the guy that came out and did this crazy hula hoop act that was it was crazy. It was just amazing. He was so good, and acrobatics and all this stuff. But he also was a singer, so he was like heard that I did charts and stuff and knew Meredith. So we got together and we wrote. he said for his husband, he was writing a. You're basically making fun of him on his birthday about how old he was, so he was writing a whole song about that, and it was cool. He just took it. He's just super happy. He just took it, and I never actually heard the song ever, but it was just super fun because he was just sitting there like, okay, so I think I want to go somewhere like kind of sad here, and then it was just kind of like it was a puzzle, more or less.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of the collaboration, because as you start kind of like carving this shape into it, with what we were doing here, Robert would then give some feedback, and then that might change it or shape it in another direction.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And so that's an interesting transition, because like then we're talking about like collaboration, like a lot of what I've done, I think that we've done, obviously playing in bands and stuff is collaborative, but a lot of the hard work that goes into being a musician is solitary,
Yep.
Transcribing, practicing, whatever. And it's like I've been trying to get into, I've done a couple video game projects that have gone nowhere, which is another downer, but things are coming back.
They've not gone nowhere, man.
It's experience.
It will be useful.
Yeah. No, it really, and that's what I was going to say is like, working collaboratively is a really big part of why I'm trying to get into game audio, because like I love taking inspiration from visuals or getting someone to say like, hey, can you make this sound more like red balloons or something, or what is it sound like, some kind of weird abstract adjective that somebody wants it to sound like.
Yeah.
and trying to make something out of that. It's like a limitation that you place on yourself, and I love that.
Yes. Man. Okay. What I love about a collaboration, I'm only recently starting to feel like an artist. Mm-hmm. I did all of these arrangements last year, and I started to really kind of find my process, and it totally changed my ear, how I hear music.
Yep.
You do a lot of transcription or a lot of arranging or a lot of anything music. It enhances your ability to hear, and I feel like I think more linear now rather than
vertical.
Vertical.
Yeah.
So hearing how lines move within a chord progression, one particular note, how that's being voiced throughout, as opposed to hearing the chords.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do both. I'm just saying that has jumped out more with me. And I've also accepted that I consider myself to be a great number two. And I love having someone who has an idea.
Yeah.
And then I have the ability to make that idea happen.
Right.
And Robert is an incredible singer. He's a great writer, but he doesn't have necessarily the ability to shape it out the way he hears it in his head. And I love being able to do that.
Yeah.
Because I think it utilizes my strengths.
Yeah, man.
Give me the idea and I'll push it to the finish line.
That's perfect, because like that's exactly, it depends on like what kind of stuff you're doing too, but like when you have a limitation on what you're doing, it clarifies the path that you should take.
Yeah.
Creatively. You know what I mean? Like less like when you are overwhelmed by how many different, what could the next chord be? It could be all these different things.
You end up getting crippled by choice.
We had an assignment in one of our arranging classes that was write a tune with all minor chords. Every chord is a minor chord. It ended up being one of my favorite tunes, but it started as an assignment where you were limited by what you're doing.
Yeah. Once you're out of the assignment, you can then make it, like finish it with the way your ear hears it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't have to necessarily be an assignment, It can just be an approach that you take,
So,
yeah.
You mentioned a competition that you entered.
Mm-hmm.
I entered the Spitfire Audio's the Einarr Toprax DC Stargirl. They had a competition scoring a particular scene from there. You mentioned you really like scoring to picture. Mm-hmm. This is kind of a new thing for me.
Yeah.
My buddy Adam, another guy from Ships, he started talking to me about composing, like media composer work, and video game audio being one of those things, or film and TV, of course. And then we did this game SoundCon where I eventually ended up meeting up with you just because you happened to be there. And I'm getting more and more into an appreciation for composing to picture.
Yeah.
I love it because it gives you so much feedback, and you have these rules as to like, okay, I need to communicate this emotion. How can I do that? And but then you have all this freedom with like instrumentation and stuff like that. I feel woefully outclassed by so many of the other submissions.
Right.
But I still am really glad
Get used to that feeling, by the way.
I'm really glad that I took the time to do it. And you talk about giving yourself some barriers. I can pick any note, any chord, any scale, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Well, here's this scene. It's DC Stargirl. I don't know anything about this show. I've not watched it. I have since listened to a lot of Einarr Toprax music and have watched a few scenes from that. But at the time, I see this superhero girl in, red, white, and blue, very typical superhero. I wanted to make it sound out of this world. She's a good guy, so I figure her theme should be major.
So going back, just to bridge that, you wanted to make it sound out of this world because of the visual cue
No. Hang on.
no,
Because
okay.
she's a superhero.
Right.
She's extra human. So I wanted something that was. She's a good guy. Major theme, major tonality. I mean, so I wanted it to be extra major.
Yeah.
So for her theme, I wanted to go with major 7 sharp 5 as the tonality. It is a mode from the melodic minor scale, for all of the music nerds out there. And my thinking was, here's a major chord. You can add a major 7 to it, and then it feels just a little more mysterious or what have you, because the 2 triads there, you have a major triad, but you also have a minor triad, so it adds a little more depth. But then, I don't know, just poking through the umbrella and adding a major 7 sharp 5.
Yeah.
That was my way of making it extra major. And then there's more, there's a little bit of like a whole tone element to the melodic minor scale because of the series of whole steps. Anyway, so I started writing this theme, and then I hated it. While I'm doing it,
Get used to that feeling.
I hated where I was going with this thing, and I wanted to give up and just do anything else, but I decided, no, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to finish it. In the end, I came up with a lot of stuff that I really like, some stuff that I don't like. I feel like my chances of winning the competition are low, but whatever, I don't care, because there's a lot of stuff that came out of giving myself this boundary and then working with that, because then the rest of the scene, I'm taking those intervals, or for the primary bad guy in the scene, I reversed the theme for the.
Love that. See, this is what I'm talking about. You get into this is like Wagner and stuff. Like you get into leitmotifs and like
exactly
all that stuff this is just, man, video game music absolutely full of that stuff. Koji Kondo, all day.
Okay.
But like, it's just, as you're saying this, I'm thinking like, you're taking like an idea, an abstract sort of like fluid idea of like, oh, here's this Supergirl that's out of this world, so it's going, and then you're going to translate that into like this set of rules that can have this much flexibility this way or that way, but it's still a set of rules, right? It's just really cool. It's just like, that sounds like a really cool video game, but it's like, it's making music. You know what I mean? That's the other thing, is like, I have all of these things that I'm doing. One of them, once I'm done the 3 things that I'm doing now, is going to be making my own video game. I have to learn how to do it. I'm learning Game Maker Studio. Apparently that's a really good program. You should check it out, because it's apparently kind of user friendly. You have, if you're
dude, I'm still trying to deal with the music side of it. You're making games.
No, but okay. No. But look, I'm not making it yet. I don't even know what I'm doing yet. The guy that I'm talking to, he's a friend of mine I met through the IGDA out here. Which is International Game Developers Association. He's like, you should check this out if you're trying to make my whole idea was like, I want to make a video game. I don't have to make money from it. I'm not trying to make money at this point. I just want to have a video game that I can put really good music to, or really good audio to. And I thought I had that with this last project, and I poured a lot of my energy into that project, and it ended up not going anywhere, which is my fear from the beginning. And so now I'm at this spot where it's like, the reason I don't want to learn to program. Don't get me wrong. I do not want to learn Game Maker Studio. But the way he convinced me was that he was like, so your goal is to have a project that you can display your audio capabilities and your this and that skill, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, what you should do is learn enough about this. It's like, you can learn enough to make a very simple gameplay-wise and visually-wise, very simple game, but then superimpose this like professional-sounding audio onto it.
A beautiful score.
And so that's how he convinced me, is that he said, because if you can do that, then you have control of whether or not it gets finished. That's the key. Is that because my woe from the last year or so has been, I can't rely on anybody but myself. And not to say that, like, and the people that I worked with, it was a side project. They're great. It's just that they're young. They were doing other stuff. They're not where I am. I am older than all of them, and I'm just like, I want to get something going. And so my point in saying that is like, I don't have any ill will toward them, but it was very frustrating because I felt like out of control of what I was really trying to do, which is this important project that shows somebody that I can, write nonlinear music and provide good quality sounds. But yeah, so that's how he convinced me. He's like, you have control of finishing it if you learn how to do this. And I was just like, okay, damn it. So I'm just like, now I have to do this.
That's well put. That is well put.
Yeah.
Okay. Diving into more composition,
Yes.
I realize just how there is so much that we are expected to just know how to do.
Yeah.
It's not enough to play an instrument.
Nope.
Not even close.
Nope.
It's not enough to also promote in social media and all of that. Those two things everybody knows. But there's this whole host of software that I have started needing to get used to. Making good orchestral mock-ups, that is a serious art form.
Oh, yeah.
And I have so far to go, but I look back on the last year and it's like, okay, I have been learning. And, I got to give myself some credit because when I first started, I was fucking clueless.
It's like learning a new instrument.
And then even within the world of mock-ups, like every single, library operates a little different. And you got to learn all these quirks and you got to remember, like, one of the things that I don't even know where I got the advice, but it's probably Spitfire Audio's YouTube channel or some training video that I watched on ask.video. Anyway, it's like right to your sample because the samples have strengths within them. Not every cello sample is going to be able to do what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
So don't try and make a sample fit where it's maybe not going to work because that's how you notice, that's not a real instrument.
Yes. Yeah. And stuff and stuff that you wouldn't have noticed like a month ago that you now have heard so many times. It's like you were saying, you get into a flow and like you notice the details differently now. Yeah, exactly. Continue.
And then you throw in mixing and mastering, or you mentioned Unity and the other the audio implementation software. The middleware. Thank you. There's so much to get your head around, and it's just really, really daunting.
It is. Because it's like, and here's the other thing, man. It's like, I think are we the same? You're younger than I am, but
am I?
I think you're a little bit younger, aren't you? I don't know, maybe not.
My birthday's coming up. I'm turning 34 soon.
Oh shit! Well, okay, we're the same age. I'm turning 34 in May. But it's like, look, and that's not old. A lot of people listening. Here's the thing: there's a lot of people older than us, but there's a lot of people younger than us too. And I would say there's probably whatever. I don't. It's a dumb. Let's see. How many things? How many people are older? Do you think? No, but it's like I feel like I don't feel super old, but I don't feel young anymore.
Yeah,
it's the same. I think that's a Sam Roberts lyric. I used to. You remember when you were 20 and it was just like, I'm gonna live forever. It's always gonna be just like this.
You would actually hear people say things like, "Well, you're still young."
Yeah.
I don't hear that anymore.
Yeah, they stopped saying that. It's not that I'm like, oh god, I'm running out of time, but it's like, I don't want to be floundering around anymore. I want to have my career going, and I think I'm getting there, but it's like, it goes back to that whole like, I don't know if I'm placing my energy in the right place sometimes,
Yeah.
You should. I'll give you his contact info because this guy Steve Meme. I met him through, so the IGDA thing I mentioned. They have chapters all over I think they have chapters all over the world. They might have some in Ontario too. But
what is that acronym? I said, oh yeah, like I knew what.
IGDA,
what is it?
International Game Developers Association. It's like a nonprofit.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
They had an online thing. It was kind of like the Game SoundCon thing, but it was just a general game developers thing. And it was very, very well structured for just like meeting some new contacts and stuff like that. So it was a Zoom meeting, and you would spend 15 minutes or so in a Zoom room with like 3 or 4 other people, and you would just all introduce each other and talk and just just have normal conversation, just meet some people. It was just like pure networking. But he is a recruiter for he works for a recruiting company that works with different game studios and stuff. So he's usually working with like programmers and graphic artists and audio people and all that stuff. But he has like a times during the week or whatever where you can just book like a half an hour with him and just talk to him. And I've talked to him twice now. He's a very down to earth, really chill guy to talk to. I'm probably gonna have him on an episode over this. Anyway, he would be a good guy to talk to because if you're curious about like certain things, like he suggested that I do like videos of me composing, and I did that, and it was good advice. I have like this little series of like Spicer Makes 8-bit music.
Yes, I watched.
Did you watch some of it?
Yeah.
I find it unwatchable because I don't really explain anything. I'm just working.
I know you really well, and I think you're funny. So
if you're my friend, you'll probably
experience.
enjoy it. So give me like 30. If I get 30 views on it, I'll be happy.
It's the last short transition before we say goodbye.
I think I knew I would feel like this at the end of it too. Is like I feel like we need to say other things, but I think we can just leave it because we've talked about what we're doing, who we are, how we know each other, and what it's like to the good and bad parts about being someone in a creative industry. You know, because it's hard sometimes, and the pandemic doesn't help that. It's also, I don't want this to be like a gripe session. I think and part of the reason that I wanted to talk to you especially first is because of where I am right now, and every time I talk to you, the conversation cannot ever dwell in negativity for very long because you exude positivity, whether or not but it's not in a fake way. It's not like this toxic positivity kind of thing that you see in certain professional situations. It's more of like oh no, this guy genuinely loves life and trying to conquer it, basically. You're, after all, and for those of you listening, Eric is very much of Nord descent. If you look at him, he's got a very blonde beard. He would definitely be some kind of you could do like mocap for like Assassin's Creed or something.
Listen, I just want to be an extra in the Vikings show.
Get those like styrofoam balls in your beard so you can
beard beads.
But no, it's and so I thank you for doing this because it's like it's helping me sort of. It's a great way to kick off all of this, I think.
Hey man, I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
I just don't. I don't know. I hope it's worth listening.
No,
I'm not very interested.
The other thing too is like the signal boost that you'll get from this is not going to be very big. But I figure I should have a podcast if I'm advertising like, oh, I'm into this podcasting thing. It's like I should know more about podcasting, and I think a good way of doing that is to just produce a podcast. So
well, fuck yeah, man. Yeah. I am happy to be here first. I think I'm first.
You are first. You will be first.
Fuck yeah.
Thanks, man.
Happy to do it.
Well, that was episode 1, everybody, with Eric Lundgren. Be sure to check out the episode notes for links to The Gilded Leash on Instagram and I Need a Man by Robert Ball on Spotify. The theme music you've been hearing is a tune of mine that features some fantastic Vegas musicians: Julian Tanaka, Jorge Machine, Nate Kimball, Eddie Rich, Leo Berenguel, Dave Ostrom, and Michael Hoffman. For more information about me and my podcast guests, visit www.michaelspicermusic.com. That's worldwideweb.michaelspicermusic.com. All right, time to go to episode 2. Oh, look, an old-timey car. I'll get into that and take that to episode 2. Bye.